Let's talk after this.
Call to order. Any citizen comments? Oh, roll call, sorry.
Thank you, Chair.
It's slash, so it kind of threw me off a little bit.
Member Vigil is absent. Member Nuss?
Here.
Member Morgan is absent. Member Lewis?
Here.
Member Feighery is absent. Vice Chair Strachan?
Here.
And Chair Aguillard.
Here.
Thank you.
If I could update, Member Morgan indicated that Dial-A-Ride is running late, but he is on his way.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, he texted earlier. He texted me.
I will be sure to note his arrival time for the record. Thank you.
Citizen comments, any announcements?
Patricia Barrett.
Hi, Patricia.
Housing Committee, Subcommittee on the Mayor's Task Force, but I received a phone call, wanted to know if I was still interested in being a member on the board, and I was puzzled by that, so I went to Chair Aguillard about it.
Cameron?
Do you know who the call was from?
Eliza?
I'm guessing that was the name, because it wasn't Carol and it wasn't Jeff.
Let me take note of that.
Okay.
And we will absolutely get back to you.
Yeah, because we were trying to figure it out. The other thing is tonight was a presentation on the crosswalk at VHS, and you're invited to come give
Address?
support at 5 o'clock.
Where?
1212 California Street, Conference Room B.
1212 California Street.
Yeah, you know VHS,
VHS main campus.
where the turnabout is?
The building that's on the Harding side?
No, the building that's on California has the turnabout right in front where you,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
where the crisis center is.
Oh, okay, what room?
B and C, Conference Room B and C. Right, the main entrance. That's the east side of the property. I mean, the west side.
Drew said he'd go. Thank you, Patricia. Adoption of consent calendar, approval of the minutes. Did everybody read through the last minutes?
Yes.
George, you were absent, so you'd have to read. You did.
I read them.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So, unfinished business, item 4.
Chair, we
Want
would need
approve it?
to
A vote?
approve by motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Can I get a motion to approve? Second?
I'll second it.
George, so we have a motion by Vice Chair Drew Strachan and a second by George Lewis. You need to vote.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Blair. Any unfinished business? Unfinished business, we can attend unfinished business to go to the document that Cameron sent out? Is that the line item we have for that? Is there a specific, or is that the written, because there's nothing?
Staff is going to present under item 6, reports, written
Yeah, we can do that.
communications. There were no items for numbers 4, unfinished business, or item 5, new business. That
New
would bring
business.
us.
Well, new business, I do have something.
We did not have anything agendized for
I thought
this
we-
meeting.
I wasn't clear that we had to have something written to have something for new business.
In
thought we
order
did.
to speak to an item, we do need to have it agendized, but we can put that onto the agenda for the next meeting.
Oh, okay, okay, all right, that's fine. So go on to item 6.1.
Thank you, Chair.
You're on, Cameron. You have more than 3 minutes too, just so you know.
You're not going to put the timer on me?
No, no timer.
So with last month's meeting being canceled, these are the notes that I have from the meeting prior, from items 4.1 through to 5.7. And the preface that I wanted to make ahead of running through the responses provided are that the city manager and interim city clerk Christian Clegg and myself are going to, I've got to nail down Christian's calendar, but within the next week or two, I'm going to sit down with the two of you and figure out what we can do in 2019 realistically, especially with regards to, as the crosswalk being an ever-present problem and posing a serious safety issue to the community, being very intentional about getting Public Works director or whoever, whatever sort of city representative can be here and present as to what the process is, make sure that, this crosswalk, we have a very clear picture of what its timeline can be, and then making sure that for future problem areas that there's a very clear process and expectations are set for how we need to go about getting a crosswalk done, so that this type of delay or lack of information or confusion is not experienced again. So Christian has confirmed that over either next meeting or the meeting after that, we'll be sure to get Public Works here to present on that. And then going down the list to 4.5, brochure content. I don't have a copy of the brochure. It was created back, I think, a little over 10 years ago. 5.2, discussing the task force website. The official reply that I've got here verbatim is that board, commission, committee, task force members are not provided access to the city's website. The city made updates to a page that was a sub-page to the mayor's page, and it was maintained by Mayor Johnston and her team. I guess that would be, again, a little over 10 years ago. Social media presence, the city does not have the resources to support a social media site. Mayor Awards, 5.4, I would love to know what's been done in the past. Always happy to recognize the good work in the community. So if we can add some color to that, so I understand what we're looking to achieve there. And same sort of comments around the Disability Awareness Fair. I know that we've had conversations about the fair in the past, and just understanding how the city has played a support role with respects to providing venues or sponsorships or things like that. But moving to 5.6, Disability Awareness Month. So I've offered up, please feel free to provide us a list of months and specific dates that you would want to call up for proclamations or commendations. Completely blanking on the one from last year with Jody and Central Valley. What is Jody's group called? Central Valley Blindness and Impairment.
Oh, Community Center for the Blind?
Thank you.
Joni. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Joni, thank you.
Yeah,
There we
Joni
go.
Valley.
Like 25 community years of work. So always happy to call up folks and commend them and provide proclamations best we can. But again, let us know. Tell us when you'd like that. And then with regards to the City Hall ADA checklist, our response is we don't have this information. And that came from the city manager's team. So again, we can dig deeper into that with Christian when we do have a 2-on-2 meeting set up, because I would hope that that would be a very specific request, especially as we move into the next space. I'm not sure what the timeline is for a new city hall, but it's coming up sooner than later. So those are the items brought forth from 2 meetings ago, and then again, very happy that Christian, myself, and the team here are gonna do some visioning and a nice little workshop moving forward, so that 2019 can be focused and we can understand what will have legs, so that we can achieve something at the end.
Yeah, because it's a totally different format from before.
Mm-hmm.
So before we had subcommittees, and the difference with the subcommittees that they met once a month, so we technically had 5 meetings a month, were interchangeable, where people communicated, engaged, networked, and now we don't have that. We just have this, so it puts it a little different structure. And And so with the Brown Act, it makes it a little bit more difficult as well for us to exchange too much with each other with too many people, in a sense.
Are you,
Well,
are you able, do we have understanding of the constraints of the Brown Act with respects to subcommittee members and,
Yeah.
or sorry,
Well,
committee
a
members?
subcommittee is different than
Task
just
force members.
actually us meeting, because right now it's just
Sure.
us. So it's like unless we actually communicate with each other during the whole month to make sure that the agenda items get followed all the way through, then we're just coming here every month for an hour meeting, and that's about it. So we're gonna have to figure out something on how to adjust that.
Sure, and happy to address that when we meet with
Yeah,
Christian to
right,
understand
exactly,
the
yeah.
best system that we can work within to make sure that this is a good use of everyone's time.
Because the awards, the mayor's awards is an idea that that we came up with. Danny and I were discussing it one time, and we just figured we'd go with it. And I talked to Mayor Tubbs, and he said he thought it was a good idea as well.
And would it be a standalone event? Would it be something that we just call in front of council some night, in the future?
Yeah, it would be a standalone event once a year. We would do an event similar to. The good thing is, 3 of us have already been a part of it already. Where the county did it before. Was it the county or was it county?
Yeah, I think the San Joaquin Office of Education used to participate in it as well, too. I have a lot of that background at my office. I
Yeah.
have a box with even an Oats Mayor's breakfast stamp thing.
Right. So we can we're just gonna piggyback off of that instead of trying to recreate the wheel.
Yeah, and I think it was more so, recognizing employers that employ folks with developmental disabilities or disabilities in general, and kind of recognizing those folks and are the actually employees. So, and it was just, locally and so forth, so.
Yeah, so we just
Now,
changed that.
logistic-wise, as far as, I don't quite remember how funds were raised for that. I don't know. I don't remember. I think we sold tickets, I do believe, each of the committee members, and then that's how things were paid for.
So we would cross that with the meeting.
But it basically, we would host a breakfast. It would be early in the morning, maybe 7:30 to 9:30. Obviously, the mayor would come and present these awards, or city council members, or whoever, to these local employers and some employees that have done some outstanding work in the community.
Got it.
That's really what it was, as far as I remember. We haven't done it in quite a few years, but I was part of it for several years, about 10 years ago.
Got it.
And ours is similar, but with just a little bit different of a twist on it. And we actually have the outline. So what I'll do is I'll email it to you, just to give you a draft of the outline we had in mind. And that will help us. And then, as far as the Disability Awareness Fair, we'd have to wait on that. Usually we had it in September, right before the first rain, or sometimes after the first rain. We never got rained on so far. So we could address that in the same meeting.
Perfect.
See how it works out, if it works out. And Awareness Month is just a matter of us just getting together and putting those dates in to have it listed. Now, and as far as the ADA checklist, I've created one somewhat already, and I'll email that out after this meeting as well.
Okay.
And it's basically nothing to. I didn't recreate the wheel. Basically, what I did was I took a basic concept template from the old transition plan that we did back in 2003, and just kind of redid it to get a summary of where we're at. Because some things changed in far as ADA compliance is, or just how we operate. So we can at least have the discussion, especially moving into the new building. Especially when it comes like to Parks and Rec, because we had a few programs through Parks and Rec for disabilities, but they were more like using the outside resources of other agencies that come in to use Parks and Rec, and then Parks and Rec would support the program, which would allow us to still provide the program. That's the key thing is Parks and Rec can offer something, but who's going to facilitate it, right? Who's going to do it? But if we partner with other organizations and agencies in the community, like Recreational Sports Club, who was really doing a lot of different things, and provide them the space to do it, then we get the platform to do it. So it's also cost effective as well.
Got it.
Can I jump in real quick on the transition plan, just a little historical background? I want to say it was around the time Mayor Johnston, it was identified that the transition plan had, the city, when I say we, the city had identified specific dates that they were going to complete certain targets. And those dates have come and gone, and they were coming and going around Mayor Johnston's time, which got her extremely concerned as to whether each of the individual areas identified in the transition plan had completed what they had agreed to complete. And there's been complete turnover in personnel. However, I think that document the city would still be held accountable to that document. So one recommendation is what process do we need to engage to, send that information out to the areas, kind of get feedback, whether we take the lead and have them come and set up an agenda where we can address that. But the idea is to identify any significant barriers that still might be out there that we had agreed to remove years ago. So the city could be in an extra state of being vulnerable unless we're monitoring that and staying on top of that.
Yeah, and I'm not too familiar with where this transition plan is coming from. So yeah, happy to bring that up more in depth.
And two things. One, it was Julie had put it on a CD a while back. Some people might still have it.
I believe I still have the book. I don't.
So
I think I still have it.
I'm the
It's about this
sole-
big.
Yeah. You got a book too?
I think so.
How'd you get one? I actually had two books. One book was a scratch paper book because at that time when before Mayor Ann Johnston, Public Works program manager, I forgot her name, but she was the person who was our key person. So anything that we needed through Public Works, such as crosswalks and all that, she directly went into Public Works and worked it all out and got it done. Crosswalk, curb cuts, and all that kind of stuff. So I can if George has a copy.
Yeah, I'd be happy to drop the copy by. I'm pretty certain I still have it at my office. If I don't, then I'll let you know. But I mean, I'd be happy to drop it. It's just a huge book, and I want to say it was a 10-year plan. Yeah, that's expired, definitely.
And are you saying it was authored by the Public Works Department or authored by this task?
I think it was by city manager's office.
Yeah.
Okay.
I received when I got it in my hands, it came out of city manager's office.
Got
It was kind of like our Bible per se when this task force was formed many moons ago. It was kind of like our charge to go through that book and meet with the city planner, the offices and different offices, and ensure that those things were happening accordingly that were in that book. And so as the hands have changed over the years, the book has disappeared, and I think we keep circling back to that because I think that's always been our original charge in ensuring that because it was an ADA plan to make the city more accessible at the end of the day.
Got it.
And just one more bit of background on that, and you're probably aware of this, but the city used to have like an ADA coordinator position.
Right, exactly.
Who was taking the lead on that and was
Also, it's on Public Works.
in Public Works and reaching out and ensuring that other departments were following that, and that person had authority and say over ADA-related aspects. And I think some of that's missing. As soon as they eliminated that position, I think it's probably just somewhat fallen through the cracks. So
No, she retired.
okay, but they haven't refilled. The position's never been refilled.
Yeah, and because this is back and forth between mayors, and we've been doing it. Like, we have this part, we have to get renewed every year. That's kind of where the inconsistency comes from. That's why the request for us to become a commission was put out, because then it'd be more consistent instead of stopping and going, stopping and going, stopping and going, stopping and going.
Right.
On the website. So the website, it shouldn't really. We didn't plan it that way. It just happened to be that way, and we never worried about it because we had such an efficient mayor's assistant, such as yourself. But Julie did a great job through all the transitions of the mayors to keep the website in order. So we never realized that it was per mayor. As far as we were concerned, it was their period, right? and then all of a sudden, when it dropped off the website, somebody says, oh, we found out that it was just per mayor. So it shouldn't be per mayor. The mayor's task force on persons with disabilities or the mayor's commission should be a mainstay on the website itself, because it also provides resources and services for persons with disabilities when they come onto the city website. So that right now, if a person with a disability, visual, hearing, or et cetera, there'd be nothing there for them to know where they can get support from the city or in the city. See what I'm saying? So it needs to be a mainstay on there as far as what it does, not be, well, this mayor, that mayor, this mayor.
Yeah, and we don't currently use that site for anything outside of listing his bio and contact information.
Yeah, so that's also kind of a risky situation too for us, I think, to the city itself to not have ADA platform.
Yeah, if I could, one of the links, there used to be, somewhere we had a link where a community member could go in and literally type out a write-up, a concern they had from an ADA perspective. And so I'm not.
So we have a tool called Ask Stockton, which should, provide the same means to an end. There's 100 different options that you can select from.
Okay.
And that once you make that request, it charges very transparently some city department with the responsibility to close that request out and provide the constituent with a response.
So maybe this committee should take a look and go on there, just as if.
We've been on it already.
Yeah, okay, but it's still identified, it's been a while since I looked, I mean, it still says something like ADA or accommodation request.
I haven't audited it with that.
That's what I
lens.
was gonna wonder, if it prompts them that
That's
specifically.
what it doesn't. That's why we're saying it should be an actual ADA page.
And it could just link back to the same.
Yeah, most
Maybe
cities
the
have
same
a
thing.
straight ADA page.
I understand yeah.
That's what we're trying. We've been battling this for a minute. It was really a battle in the last couple of years before Michael.
And happy to discuss the website as it exists as a page under the mayor's auspices. Happy to discuss that when we meet with Christian.
Yeah. I mean, it is, because it is the mayor's in general. And the brochure, we had an actual hard copy of the brochure at one time, but I don't know where it went. So we'll just have to recreate a new one. Maybe Matthew can create a trifold. Can you create a trifold, maybe?
Probably, yeah.
Because Matthew's good at that. I think that's it. You did good. You did good, Cameron.
Yeah, appreciate you.
But yes, we'll work to square away some time with Christian, myself, and you two.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Cameron.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much.
Board and Commission, 6.7, item 7, Board and Commission Communication and Comments. Anybody have something going on?
I might have
I have one. So I was talking about trying to get a service dog. So, a while back, there was no real policy to where you get a registered service dog, right? So now, PD, Stockton Police Department says that you have to get your dog certified through a service dog company or agency, and then you bring back the certificate to them, and then they give you a service dog thing. But the problem is that when I asked them, so where do I go to get a service dog certificate, then all of a sudden there's a blank.
I researched that for you, Don.
Yeah, I know, I saw that. So now Danny provided, so hopefully maybe we can do is a part of the transition plan project is to also to make that, to provide our police department with proper resources and services for folks.
Aside from this document, if I could jump in, Don, is I found something, there's a non-required agency in Sacramento that will provide a certificate and essentially certify that it's an official service dog. Although that is not required for anybody to do, they encourage it because it's good practice and essentially kind of creates this registry, and they can back you up as an advocate if something ever happens. But that was the best I could find so far with a registry or certificate. I think you're right. I don't think City of Stockton has anything on its own, and we're not required to have it according to the laws.
Okay.
Yeah, but you know, a service dog is getting to be a big thing now because I've noticed that when I flew to New York, I'm trying to figure out where I flew to. I flew to New York. There was quite a number of people who had a dog with them when they flew, and the dog acted better than some of the kids. And they didn't really have anything much to show that they had a service dog. So, but I think that what I'm seeing here, Danny, what you gave me is there's a CNI dog, which of course is mainstay, kind of more or less. Then you have a dog for a diabetic person. Then you should have a dog as a guide therapy dog. So the idea of a guide therapy, my mom and dad have a therapy dog. It's a Chihuahua. I always laugh at that because it's like a Chihuahua. And so, but a certain service dog should have some training, because there are service dogs that may need to pick up, like me. If I drop something and I'm having a really real bad pain attack or something, and I drop something, I didn't have my dog pick it up for me. So it'd be helpful to kind of help that out.
You mind if I chime in real fast?
Yeah, go ahead.
I do know that specifically per federal requirements, there are only 2 questions that any organization can ask of somebody that is having a service animal. Number 1, is that a service animal? Number 2, what task has it been trained to perform?
That's it.
Those are the only 2 things that designate a service animal. And I'm actually really passionate about this because I'm going to be getting a guide dog in the future. And I was actually just at Costco over the weekend, and just coming in the door behind a lady with a Chihuahua in a bag. And the guy at the door stopped her. He's like, "Is that a service animal?" First question out of his mouth. And she said, "Yes, I have all of the paperwork to prove it." And I was ready to chime in myself and say, you know what, this isn't really necessarily a service animal, because if we start washing service animals down as just a pet that we put in a bag that we pay somebody to get a piece of paperwork for, because that's what a lot of these organizations are doing. They're just saying, hey, we will write out something that looks official saying that this is a service animal when it really isn't. And I'm sorry, this is something I'm really passionate about, because it is just watering down the fact that service animals aren't anymore. So legitimately, the only 2 things we can do about service animals is inform the public that there are 2 questions by federal law that you're allowed to ask. Number 1, is that a service animal? Number 2, what has it been trained to do?
Yep.
So I don't know what beyond that we need to do, but sorry, I had to jump in there.
No, it's okay. Because if Subcommittee Chair Patricia would like to make a comment to this discussion, can she just go to the podium?
You can ask the member of the public to come up and
Okay.
speak, Chair.
All right. The Subcommittee Chair, Pat.
Mr. Barrett. So I have 2 Chihuahuas that are service dogs registered. My doctor's nurse, who has a sister has a service dog, went through freemypaws.org, I think it's called. They have the letter. You take it to your doctor fills it all out, makes it, stamps it, the whole thing. You submit it back to them. You buy their vests. They give you ID cards and tags. You're right. Are they service dogs? Yes. What do they do? I have PTSD. They alert. So whether they're that big, I knew a lady.
Alert what?
And if they alert, that's their
Chihuahua
trained job.
that was about to have a
When you have a
seizure.
seizure?
And the Chihuahua would alert her that prior to her seizure. So it's not a matter of size. It's a matter of, my dogs are well behaved. They go to conferences. They sit in their stroller, because I don't need my Chihuahuas biting anybody's ankles. But if somebody comes near me, they turn, they get up, they watch, You know, they're just constantly on it, especially anything coming behind me. They're looking through their window in the back and stuff like that. And that, actually, they weren't trained to do that, but when they made these motions, I gave them a name, a word. So they would be aware, watch.
So they were trained.
You trained it.
Right, but not by choice. It was just like, we worked together as a team, you know? But pre my pause, I took them on United. They harassed me in Georgia, but it got squared away. Never harassed me in San Francisco. Hilton will only take them if they're service dogs, and they're not pet friendly. So I had to show their tags, you know, and their ID card.
And I'm gonna jump in there. For now, it's like, once the education gets out there, almost all of those sites are, to be frank, are bogus, not required. You don't need a vest, you don't need certification, you don't need anything. But people figured out they can make money off it, and the public stops asking questions when they see these badges and certificates, but they actually really don't hold up. In time, as education is provided more, I think. What I'd rather hear you say is that you train the animal and it is your alert dogs and they're trained to do this. Now you're covered.
Yeah.
You don't have to go any further than that.
No.
But society expects us to have these symbols or these badges.
They're not on harnesses with a blind person on the end. They don't think of them as service dogs.
Exactly.
And they don't have to be on a harness if they're trained to retrieve, because the law states under the control of the handler or harness or leash, depending basically on what it is. But under the control of the handler is the covering term. Yeah, so they don't even have to be on a leash or a harness.
But I use my vest for the simple fact that I want the public to see their vest on the handle of their stroller, only because
The
I
vest
want,
is important.
one says on duty, and if I turn around, it doesn't say on duty. But if they come up to me and they say, are they service dogs? And they say, can I touch them? And I'll say, no.
Right.
You know, so it alerts them to know these are service dogs. Don't walk up and say, oh, they're so cute. Are they
Right.
really chihuahuas?
Good anyway.
What breed are they?
But there is such thing as a therapy dog.
Yes,
Which is different.
but they don't get the rights
Nope.
of rights flying free.
Don't tell my mother that.
No, they don't. Yeah.
Don't
And
tell
they
my mom- don't
they-
tell my mom.
no restaurants, no anything of the sort. No.
Because my mom and dad in Oakland, they got their dog certified as a therapy dog. But he's a service dog, but she's a therapy dog.
But they can
But,
always,
but
they
she's
can
very
upgrade it.
but she's very
Teach
controlled. My dad actually self-trained her as well, and she's just the sweetest little thing. But she's a therapy dog because she there for him.
Well, when you have PTSD, anything that you can trust is a therapy, as far
I mean,
as that
I like to
goes.
see it, but I would like to see it like to where it's certified because like I've got my dog is, let's see, Bruno is like 16, 17 weeks right now. So I like him to begin some type of service dog training right now to learn how to pick up something for me. Because, it's for me, Petco, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, and it's good for people, like say if now we're getting to the point where some of our parents are getting older, our grandparents are getting older, and maybe we'd like to get a service dog for them because maybe they need somebody to pick up something for them. So it'd be nice to know.
Yeah, just remember, if the person has a disability, you're welcome to get a dog and train it if it can alleviate a symptom of that disability, and it has to be something the person cannot do on their own. For example, you can't alert yourself if someone's going to tell you and trigger PTSD. The dog alerts you that situation. If it's a guide dog, obviously the person can't see in order to navigate. The dog is going to fill in that gap. So as long as you train it, a friend trains it, Petco trains it, a certified agency trains it, it doesn't matter as long as it is trained and always under the control of the handler, and it's for a person with a disability. That's it. You don't need any more.
Hey, Don, if you want somebody to take it up for you, why don't you just get them?
I thought about that. Anything else? Anybody? George,
We don't have anything going on right now.
Nami?
We do have a provider education training starting on January 29th for inline service and professionals in the mental health field. Please check our website, namisanjoaquin.org.
Matthew, anything at the Blind Center?
Actually, coming up on February 23rd, I wanted to give people advance notice. We've got our Pedaling for Paths. It's our big fundraiser every year. And the registration's available up on our website, I believe. If not, I think it's pedalingforpaths.com or .org. But it's a fundraiser, and we have a 26 or a 65 tandem bicycle route that we're going to be doing. And we do it every year. This is our 11th annual, and I'm signed up to go. So I will be not a captain, but a passenger on a tandem bicycle.
Oh, cool.
Cool.
I'll see you there.
And you guys have a new office or a new building, right?
Oh, we've been there for about 2 years now?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2453 Grand Canal. But we
Maybe we can arrange to go out and visit it
yeah,
as a group?
We did.
absolutely.
You missed it.
Yeah,
We've all
we
been
were there.
We were there for the
Oh, yeah, that,
yeah.
Oh, the,
before we
White
started.
King,
White Cane Day. Yeah.
Cane Day, yeah.
Oh, White Cake. Well, that's different. But y'all have food there. But y'all have food there too, right?
As a matter of fact, they did.
cookies. If I could jump in, I just have two things I would like to share with the committee. If I don't know, something Don and I were discussing as well, is what I'd like to do, if possible, is for us to develop a list of area agencies that have some vested interest in the work that we do, and maybe then break up that list amongst this committee and start calling them. Let's make some personal phone calls and remind them of the task force when we're meeting, and encourage them to come in and bring things related to their area that might be a concern, so we can all start supporting each other.
Yeah.
And then the other second of that is if we could go back to that list of people we identified as subcommittee members. I know there was some confusion about members, non-members, but we were hoping that those people would be subcommittee members, and I don't know how realistic it is to get them back on our email list of the agenda or other things of that nature, so that we can hopefully fill this room back up. Just by the fact of how many people had applied to be on the task force, it was around 20 or more. We have a lot of good folks that I think if we could structure that somehow as them being part of the subcommittees and get active on that. So it's my thought. I'm just kind of wanting to rally the committee a little bit.
So we can we'll make sure we put on the agenda for the next month meeting to look at changing our meetings to 5:30 in the evening instead. Because this time people are at work and they can't get out of work unless they have a reason to get out. And that was the reason why, if they're not on the task force, they can't come. But it also allows the public to come, because if the public wanted to come, the public couldn't come at 3 o'clock. They're at work.
So, Chair, we can, oh, pardon me, Cameron?
Yeah, happy to discuss that in the interim, rather than next meeting agenda, or just go to, with Christian to explain city clerk team capacities, city manager's capacities.
Right.
And then, there are a couple of other concerns that we kind of bring up with the
Yeah.
So it will be noted that that was discussed again, and I know that Cameron is going to have that addressed in the meeting, but we do have your next scheduled meeting for February. It's going to be the third Wednesday, is what we have on the schedule right now. That's February 20th at 3 p.m. is scheduled in this room.
Gee, that's 5 days before my birthday.
We do have that date for you confirmed and held, and we will make sure that that is discussed
Right.
in the meeting with Cameron and Christian.
Well, hopefully we'll meet before then, huh?
February 20th, 3 p.m., Council Chamber, City Hall. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing there's no other communications or comments, I now move